No, you're all good?
Yeah, we're good.
Hey, I'm Ben and I'm joined by Katrien. On this video, we're going to actually have a look at a reflection about a workshop that we did for a lot of people in Brussels at the Google office. It was a big one, wasn't it, Katrien?
Yeah, wow. What was it like? First we had with 30.
In my head, it's like 300.
Yeah, it was double the size. But
Yeah, so like,
happy to have a microphone. So
we had a microphone. It was a big room. I think normally, like the ideal, like if we're doing design sprints, if we're doing sort of workshops for teams, we might say, "Oh, I'd love a group of maybe 8 to 15." I think this one was 60, so definitely had to change how we approached it, split them into groups, and we're just going to share a few of the exercises we did and kind of our reflections on doing a workshop for a bigger group. So here is our approach to doing a workshop in Brussels with Google and some of the schools that use Google tools that they brought along. So first up, we did 5 whys. And actually, I think, Katrien, you kind of suggested we start with this, didn't you? How does the 5 whys work?
So actually, like, the core idea is like ask, why are you here? And then ask it 4 more times to just go deeper and deeper. And actually, the more times you ask why, the deeper you go. And actually, the thing is that you should hop from your head to your heart to see like what is the core, why am I here? Like, is it to change what the future or the future for my children, or like whatever it could be, but it should go way deep, just not to go on the surface, but yeah, in core, why are you here? So why is this important? And it keeps you going actually if you know your deeper why. So that's something that we tried out actually. It was the first time that we did that, right?
I've used it before with a few of the groups. And it was really interesting because ultimately, some people were definitely there because they were told that they were going there. So if you start from that level, why are you here? Well, because my boss told me to. Or why do you think your boss told you to? Oh, because I'm using Google tools quite a lot in my classroom and therefore they probably wanted me to come along and learn more. Definitely gave us more of a purpose. I think one of the reflections for me as the facilitator is because we had such a large group, it was difficult to really get in and see every single person's contribution. Whereas if it'd been a smaller group, as a facilitator, you'd be there hearing every single one, and everyone would come up with their last why or their last answer to a why and share that. And I think that might have given us more ability to kind of take that forward with us more effectively, maybe I say either a smaller group or more facilitators, whichever way you want to look at it.
Definitely.
That's definitely one of the reflections. Okay, so that was 5 whys to get us started, to get down to the purpose, going from the head to the heart. Once we'd done that, we'd had a scoping call with one of the school groups that was coming to this Google workshop in Brussels. And we'd actually asked them a few questions to understand what on earth they wanted to solve. What were the challenges they were facing? And always good advice, right? For any workshop or facilitator, don't go in blind. Try and understand what you're walking into. So we had already got a how might we statement, a challenge statement from one of the school groups. And we actually used that as a starting point for people to generate ideas. And for that, we used an idea generation approach exercise called 10 for 10. Before 10 for 10, we did Evil 8s. What's Evil 8s?
Evil 8s. I really thought that was hilarious. So we actually said, so if you have the how might we, which was like, which are like manageable steps to develop like pedagogical use, really difficult word, but the pedagogical use of tools available. And we turn that around. So what is the worst way to get that or like help your students or your teachers with Google tools? And we gave them just some time just to get the juices flowing of brainstorming, to just get the worst ideas available. And it was just hilarious at points. It was yeah, like people were really trying their best. And the funny thing is, like, they were saying like, this is such a bad idea, but we're actually doing it. So yeah, it was funny. It was good.
I found that comes up a lot. There's a few different activities similar to this, like what's the worst way you could solve this problem? There's always a moment when people come up with these crazy, like, oh, we could do it in this horrible way and not allow anyone any freedom. And then ultimately, you then ask people, which of those things are you actually doing? There's always at least several of those aspects that are like, yeah, I've definitely seen that happen. So it's always a nice way, kind of humorous way to identify things that maybe people want to stop doing.
Yeah.
And also get some creative before you go into, like, you know, genuinely coming up with ideas, which we did using the 10 for 10. What's 10 for 10?
Yeah, so 10 for 10, really quick. People get 10 minutes to generate ideas. Just one idea per sticky note. They have to just keep writing for 10 minutes straight, just to get all the ideas out. Most of the time, that is like the bad ideas first, then the out of the box, the ideas later. Yeah, and that's it actually. So we then let them stick up all the ideas and then just vote on the best ones, and then prioritize again, and then you'll see like a triangle, top voted first, and then
The ideas that came up for this one, I mean, admittedly they were written in Dutch, so I can't comment on all of them. But the ideas created for this one that were voted up, we got our top 10. We then took and put them on the action board to kind of, let's take all these ideas and put them on the action board. Now, what's an action board? You hear everyone saying, well, an action board is a great way to prioritize ideas that you have. It's an impact effort scale. I've sometimes heard people refer to it as the Eisenhower scale. So that might be some people's reference point. And it just allows you to say, right, for each idea, the ones voted in the top 10, how impactful is it going to be? And you get everyone to kind of tell you whether to go left or right. And how much effort is it going to involve? And you get everyone to tell you to go up and down.
Yeah.
Actually, I've done that the wrong way around, haven't I? Left and right is effort, and up and down is impact. So kind of that got us to lunch, didn't it? We'd understood people's why, we'd created a sort of set of ideas for each group, and we prioritized them on the action board. And then at that point, we broke for lunch. No, you're all good?
Yeah. Good lunch.
It was a good lunch, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It's always good food at Google, without fail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after a great lunch, we gathered everyone back together, and we actually did an activity called Applied User Story Mapping, which is something I've used a bit, but actually not as much as some of the other exercises. And it basically allowed us to build a timeline for a typical teacher's day. And that was a little bit of a revelation for us, wasn't it, Katrien?
Yeah, it just makes you think, like, did we not think this through? Or I don't know, like maybe our way of questioning was could have been different, I think, because we didn't end up in a straight line, did we?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll add a graphic on here to show you what our expectation for a well-run applied user story mapping looks like. And then I'll also add what it looks like when you do it with a group of teachers like we did, like this. So you might notice that it's not quite the neat, orderly one that we were expecting. So yeah, it's interesting reflection. Did we not frame it well enough? Was the timeline too long? We gave them a whole day.
Yeah, I think what went wrong is that we said, like, okay, what is it that you do in like a whole day, mm-hmm. but not specifically for Google tools.
Yeah.
I think
if we'd narrowed the frame to specifically related to the use of their Google tools, we could have stripped out a lot of the extra that went in there and being a bit more specific. once we'd done the user required story mapping, we did then go on to concept sketches. Now, concept sketches, part of the design sprint actually, is that you give people a bit more time to think about their ideas and sketch them out in like a 3-part sketch. And they essentially take some of the ideas that have come up over the day, and each person's got time to think about them and draw them out for themselves. We got a 3-part sketch out of pretty much everyone in the room that ended up going up on the wall, didn't we?
And I think people liked it though, like sketching things out, go their own way, look things up. But what I do feel like, I think most of the time it stayed a little bit on the surface. Might have to do with, of course, like 60 people or 65 people in the room, which is hard to handle or to guide or ask deeper questions like, hey, so you're writing this down. Why is that? Or can you tell me more about it? Can you be more specific? So I think for me, like that felt a little bit like flat or like like on the surface.
I think, sometimes I've definitely been there where you just need, you as the facilitator need to be there for individuals where they get a little bit, not stuck, but maybe they're not being quite as ambitious as they could be. Their idea is not quite as specific as it could be.
Maybe it is in their head, but it's not, doesn't show or something.
But what it did mean, we then, with all this like a gallery of ideas, everyone gets a vote. And this time I actually get unlimited voting is generally the way I tend to do it for a heat map vote for solution sketches. And it just means that they can go around and place lots of dots on all the bits that they find interesting or exciting. And they're ultimately the things that they would like to test. What would you like to know more about? And that gives them the chance to identify which bits they should take forward and test. And ultimately, that's where we got to with the session, was to have them get to the point where they had ideas, interesting ideas that they could then go away and start to test out and implement for themselves. So we did achieve that.
What is also like a good side, like things to think about, like we ended up with a lot of ideas, but the thing was like you need to have manageable steps. You have to make decisions for your own. You have to like maybe stack habits or something just to get used to something. And people have to also figure out individually, okay, which idea am I going to try out?
So that was our workshop. One day, 60 people at the Google office in Brussels, myself and Katrien managing it. We had great support from a Google for Education partner forecast. All of the school groups that came along, we really appreciate their time and effort as well. So there we go. Little reflection on a workshop that we did back in March.